Well, thank you so much for joining. Honestly, appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. We've worked together for a while now, so really just wanted to kind of, I guess, bring everyone back to the region, to Meta, to a different platform, different part of the world, and really think about, so as the travel industry kind of begins to recover, especially like post-COVID, as Julian talked about, everything is booming. Brands have such a big opportunity to kind of reconnect with consumers and travelers. So from your perspective as head of Creator Shop at Meta, what are the kind of key strategies for promoting destinations in this kind of new age of social and influencer and creator?
It's a lot to unpack.
Sorry, yeah.
I can talk about creators for like hours and hours, and you know that. But I guess I need to take a step back and talk about how planning for travel has actually changed dramatically over the past couple of years, or few years to say.
Yeah.
I mean, if you remember, planning for travel used to be something that is very functional, very intentional. You plan ahead, you think about the places you want to visit, you do the research, you book your ticket in advance. And that has changed dramatically, I have to say, with social media and influencer marketing. Because today it's spontaneous, it's about like discovering something and then feeling passionate about it, wanting to kind of go and see that place and so on and so forth. And that's kind of also fueled by the advances in technology that happens. For example, on our Meta technologies, you can see that AI-powered discovery engines help people to discover more and more and inform their decisions in that way.
Yeah.
So people don't necessarily come on Instagram to shop or to book a ticket for a certain destination. They come to get closer to the people and things they love, and they sometimes stumble upon something that sparks their curiosity. They want to learn more about this destination, and so in today's world, it actually helps them collapse that whole marketing funnel in just this discovery moment. They come across this beautiful creator content piece. They click on something to learn more, and maybe in a lot of cases, they actually get to purchase a ticket right there, right then, or book a hotel right there, right then, collapsing the funnel, as I said. In fact, 90% of in a recent survey, 90% of those who were surveyed said that they have discovered a new business on Meta technologies. That's a lot, huh?
Yeah, that is crazy. I've always definitely thought of kind of Instagram as more of a discovery channel. And exactly as you're saying, it actually brings people down the funnel much quicker, much more impactfully. And also it's about volume. I think if you're seeing lots of creators that are going to a destination, producing beautiful content that is aspirational, it makes you just want to go and book a trip far more spontaneously than in the past.
For sure, for sure.
Totally. And I think, if anything now, that means that there's such a requirement for brands and destinations to have this always on presence. So rather than kind of like doing a campaign, going quiet, actually to be constantly engaging with consumers, potential visitors, and really making sure there's that dialogue.
We call it the era of connected brands, where because of this discovery and because of this constant curiosity is sparking passion, and passion sparking an action, brands today need to be connected with their audiences at all time, and they need to be present always, really. So it's not only about a moment that we know is going to be very interesting for people around the world. It's also about how can I, as a travel brand or a hotel brand or an airline, make sure that I'm always there so that when someone comes to the platforms, finds something that is interesting, manages to learn more about it and take action.
Totally. And in that case then, how is Meta kind of enabling brands to connect with kind of new and existing consumers or travelers in that way?
That's a very good question. I mean, in this era of connected brands, there are really three key pillars that actually kind of move that forward. So there's video, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about video now. There's, of course, creator and content, which is massive, and that's probably the thing that I'm going to talk about the most. And then there's lead generation, again, talking about collapsing the funnel. Lead generation can take hours, so I'm not going to talk about that today because we probably need a completely different day to talk about that. But when we think of video, I mean, today, video consumption online has increased to north of 4 hours daily. 4 hours. And that's actually going upwards. It's not stagnating or going downwards. We see this accelerating. And that's a lot. And when we say video, it's not just any form of video. We're also talking about short form video in specific. So think about Gen Z and the younger generations. I mean, 45% of them today do not actually watch TV through cable and channels that we were used to. I'm also Generation X, so I'm quite older than those generations. But I know a little bit about their habits. I have a teenage son at home, so kind of understand how it goes.
Yeah.
Most of that time, that means that usually you won't be able to reach that audience via traditional media, TV and such.
Totally,
so you need to look at short form video and how that actually help you connect more with those audiences.
Yeah.
Right?
And it goes back to kind of like meeting consumers where they are, right?
Yes.
They're not actually watching TV, especially Gen Z. They are scrolling for hours.
And today they're actually on Reels.
Yes,
so
exactly.
it brings us to the most important bit here. I mean, it's no secret that Reels is one of our fastest growing products today. I mean, people are coming back more and more to watch Reels. They're connecting with their friends. They're connecting with businesses that are speaking the language of the platform and pushing really entertaining and content that offers utility to people on the platform day in, day out. And this is, I mean, changing everything, to be very honest. I mean, in a recent campaign for the travel sector in specific, we've actually partnered, it was last year during FIFA World Cup, and we've partnered with Qatar Airways. They had this amazing campaign which was trying to build those connections with all the audiences traveling to Qatar and the journey, talking about the journey to get them there. And just by working with them to add Reels to the mix, so Reels on top of business as usual, we actually managed to help them reach amazing brand results. So there was a 13 points increase in brand awareness and 4.9 in message recall and 4.9 point increase in brand awareness. That's just amazing results.
That is huge. And I guess it's just such a more engaging format. Like it brings you in, it tells a story. It's a much richer medium than kind of, still imagery.
Yes. And to your point, Dominique, when we say the language of Reels, I mean, when the example I just mentioned was not just an automatic placement. It's not really cutting down your content to make it vertical and fit within the Reels user interface and what have you. It's very important that brands today try to speak the language of the platform. Seriously. We're again talking about Gen Z, we're talking about younger generations. They expect content on Reels and similar platforms to be in a certain way, and they engage with it based on that. So it's no longer, like we always advise our partners to create for the language of the platform rather than optimize for it.
Totally. It's about creating content that's adapted to the medium, because that's what is expected by people and consumers. And we're so used to consuming content in a language that we actually are already consuming. It makes, when brands get involved in that conversation and brands are then creating content, it makes it feel much more native that they are actually already creating for the medium.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where, as well, talking about influential creators and how looking at travel through their lens and understanding how they can really be this vehicle of rich, deep storytelling. So I think, how have you seen creators kind of utilizing Reels, and what is, the kind of, I guess, the movement towards short form video, and how can brands kind of,
Awesome question, because you can't talk about Reels really without talking about creators or travel for that matter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, earlier last year, Adam Mosseri, who's the global head of Instagram, during his TED Talk said something that stuck with me, and I think stuck with a lot of people as well. He said, we're seeing a significant shift of power from organizations to individuals across all industries.
Yeah, fascinating.
Travel industry included. More and more people are trusting, because creators have this unique relationships with their communities. Their communities trust them. They trust what they say about a product or a brand more than they trust what the brand says about itself. So harnessing this relationship and working, partnering with creators in meaningful collaborations is a really effective way in today's world to get to where you want to go, really. And if you think about that, I mean, creators are very different than what we used to call influencers in the past, right? Influencers used to harness the power of that relationship that they've built with their audience, but just to maybe pause with a product or say, hey, I'm in this place, it looks amazing. Today is very different.
Yeah.
Today's creators are more about harnessing not only the relationship with their audience that is built on trust, but also their creativity, their craft, their aesthetics. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So for example, when I think about myself, I mean, I love travel photography. I do a lot of photography, and I buy a lot of lenses for my cameras, a lot more than my wife would agree on. I spend a lot of money on it, and I'm more likely to buy a lens that I feel that I need if I see content from a creator that I trust and follow review that specific lens than if I see an ad from the brand itself.
Yeah, totally.
There was a study in 2020 that says that 58% of people surveyed bought a product that was recommended by a creator they follow. And that was in 2020.
Yeah.
Today, I think it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, completely. And I think, creators have built up such a trust with their audience. Ultimately, they have an audience because of the content they create, not necessarily because they were on a reality TV show or they're a celebrity, but actually because they know how to create content for a digital audience, and that's what people want to engage with. So I think also, formats like Instagram stories allow, kind of people to be brought into their world. It humanizes everything. There is much more connectivity there, much more stickiness. So that kind of used in conjunction with reels and this rich form of storytelling is incredibly impactful. And it's really just how brands can think about tapping into that and the talent that these creators have for creating content for that audience. So in terms of some forward gazing, where do you think the future of all of this is going? What do you think the future of this industry and this kind of movement is?
It's exciting, to say the least. I think there's a lot to talk about when we talk about the future of the travel industry and then creators within the travel industry. So if you think about the travel industry itself, I mean, in the previous session and in your part, we talked about the pandemic and how it's affected everything. Totally. And there definitely was an acceleration in technology during the pandemic times. I mean, it was massive. And if you think about tools like AR, augmented reality, or virtual reality, and what role does it play in the space of travel, it's massive. I mean, imagine that today you could actually discover or go around the room in a hotel without even being there through AR. Just a filter that you see an ad on Instagram or on Facebook, you click on it, it opens the lens, and then through that AR filter, you get to kind of explore the room and learn more about it, or maybe a destination for that matter, and so on and so forth. And VR is even more immersive than this. I mean, with VR, you could actually maybe test the leg room in a flight that you bought aboard before even booking the ticket. Yeah. It's amazing what these things can do. But also for creators, because that means that there's a lot that creators can, because we always talk about the metaverse, right? We always say that we're not building the metaverse, we're building for the metaverse.
Totally.
And it's pretty fair to say that the real people who are building that metaverse are the creators themselves. So there's a lot that they can add to the space and a lot that they can learn that we are trying to kind of push them to do that more and more. So for example, think about AR and the world of AR, how this can actually solve a lot of their production constraints.
Totally, yeah.
I mean, production constraints for creators is a big thing.
Yeah.
I always say that mobile devices are they're faster than the supercomputer that took human beings to the moon, by the way. It's like a whole Hollywood studio in your back pocket. You can shoot, edit, share the content right where you are instantly with no strings attached. And I can imagine this growing further and further with wearables, for example. So let's talk about Ray-Ban stories. Anyone here know what Ray-Ban stories are? Show of hands. Just one person, awesome. So I wish I had mine on me, but they're not with me today. Ray-Ban stories are a product a collaboration between Meta and Ray-Ban, where you have a pair of awesome looking classic Mayfarers, but they have cameras on the front and they have speakers, and you could actually, as a creator, shoot content without that added layer between you and the destination that you're exploring or where you are right now. We've always talked about living now and then sharing later. You can actually share while you're doing something, cooking or exploring a city or wherever you are. And in fact,
Amazing.
Mario Bonvoy actually did a really cool campaign recently
Super cool.
using Ray-Ban stories and creators, whereas
Amazing.
they were discovering the destinations they were visiting and shooting content on the go with those Ray-Ban
God,
stories.
that's amazing. Yeah, it's just taking it to like a whole new level. So I guess given the importance of creators and these super talented people and their ability to kind of create this really engaging content within brands, within the marketing mix, can you kind of give us some solutions and initiatives that you guys are working on at Meta that are kind of aimed at empowering those creators?
That's a very good question. I mean, creators need to earn a living after all, right?
Yeah.
So they create this awesome content. They're not really financial experts, and
Yep.
they need the tools to help them focus on what matters most to them, which is basically partnering with brands, creating this awesome content, and doing more of that. So Meta is working on a suite of solutions to help them monetize better and focus on that in a better way. Obviously, not all the solutions are available in all geographies, but most of them are going to come. So, for example, you could think about there are two main ways where we can make money as creators. The first one is through connecting with the audience. So, think of solutions like badges for live, or gifts for reels, or subscriptions, which is probably going to come to the region soon. But if you think about the region in specific, the second way is the most important one, because this is the majority of how they make money, which is partnership with brands.
Totally. And I feel like this is where the ecosystem of us working together kind of comes in, because
Absolutely.
of course, as YCon, we are really always, we're working with brands, we're matchmaking them to creators, we're going, we know this creator and this influential, talented person can create amazing content that is going to drive the needle and have an impact on your audience.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, you guys as Meta are building the tools that help them do that. So we have this kind of ecosystem that we're building.
Absolutely. And speaking about the tools,
Yeah.
I mean, this is where it gets confusing, right? Because how do they do it? Like, what is branded content? We know what branded content means as a broader concept, right?
Totally.
But how many in the audience know what the branded content tool is on Meta Technologies? Show of hands. Branded content tool. How many people came across a piece of content on Instagram that says paid partnership with or in partnership with? That's the branding content tool. Why is it important? Because you get the best of two worlds. Creators have that power and the trust that we've talked about that they have with their communities, but that's about it. They have a limit to the reach that they have. It's their community at large, right? But if you want to reach more people as a brand collaborating with the creators, this is where the branded content tool comes in hand, because you get to use the meta machine, the discovery engine, which actually helps you use tradition or all the media objectives that we know to reach more and more audience and expand the reach of your campaign. So you get the best of two worlds, the authenticity of the creator content plus the media objectives and the reach that you have.
Yeah, makes complete sense.
In fact, there's a case study there's a travel experience marketplace called Viator in the US. And they've actually used the branded content tool to create amazing travel content with creators from the US. And what happened is that when they added this to their business as usual, so it's not just either or, by the way, this is something that we always say. It's and, it's not either or.
Yeah.
It's business as usual plus creator content.
Totally.
When they did that, they managed to actually move the needle on some very important results, like, for example, 59.7% lower cost per acquisition and 38.6% click-through rate.
Gosh.
And also the case studies that you showed earlier. All of this shows that when branding content is used the right way, you actually get actual business results.
Yeah, totally. That makes complete sense. And if there was one piece of advice that you would give to brands when they're kind of, like working through partners like us and working with creators, like what would it be? Like, would you, like in terms of briefing or creative?
I'd say trust the creators that you're choosing.
Yeah, totally.
That's the first
or that
one.
are being chosen by your agency.
Yes, of course, because you have to work with a partner that knows
Totally.
that works against the brief and knows exactly what you need. But a big mistake that I see happening most of the time is that people would go after, or brands would go after, a very famous influencer or creator and then try to make them speak a language that they're not really used to, right?
Totally,
So I always give this analogy with football. I watch a little bit of football. You don't get Mo Salah and have him play as a goalkeeper, do you? I mean, he's not going to be a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, totally.
He probably would be because it's Mo Salah, but anyway,
Exactly. Yeah,
you get the point that I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
So yeah,
totally.
my advice, trust the process,
Yeah.
have a very good brief. When you land on the selection with your partner, make sure that you don't overshadow the creator, you don't stifle their voice, but also not work with a creator that overshadows your brand.
Completely. I think that's a great summary. And from our side as well, I guess in summary, it's so important to think about these influential creators as not just like an add-on at the end of a campaign, but an integral part of the marketing mix. They know how to tell your story. They know how to create content. They know how to create videos and reels that are actually going to showcase your brand, your destination, your airline in a way that actually goes far beyond the reach of anything that you would be able to create and that story that you would be able to tell. So putting some trust in like the creative community and allowing them to do what they do best and create content for digital channels is really, especially in today's ecosystem and the world that we live in, is super important and really kind of crucial in terms of breaking through the noise, because it is very saturated out there. Perfect. I think we've run out of time, but thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you, as always.
As always.
Thank you so much, Julian, as well. And that concludes it from us. Thanks.
Thank you.